Yo,
Yo, bro, what's up? So,
this looks cool. So now that we are here,
yo, welcome to Wagner Boys. Wagner Boys, nice.
well, I think it just sounds like super awkward or super weird,
Yeah,
but yeah, get better. Cool. So man, it's a bit difficult. It's not that easy just to get started.
yeah, uh, I don't know. But I think, yeah, it'll just like the episode ke baad, I think you become used to it. Kind of like with just normal calls also that you do.
Like even the energy, right, that you see from these guys' episode
Yeah, it's actually
is
quite a
looks
bit.
different.
Yeah, sad से लग रहे हैं हम तो बड़े comparative comparison में.
I don't know if it might be the mic that makes a lot of difference here.
Yeah,
That I
uh,
just put, for example, Shanpuri, this thing, no, the video, and here it looks like that this guy's in my ears versus, yeah, versus I don't think it's the same for you.
like, I can hear you fine. Like from my end, I think I can hear you fine. But yeah, might be my
But
mic that is.
you hear me the same way, like with with the same depth that you'd have otherwise on a podcast.
Yeah, more or less. Like it's quite clear. Like it's very clean, so I'm not getting any disturbance as such, and the
Hmm.
voice is also good. But you can try the live stream also. See, you can see how you sound.
Yeah, yeah, I'll check it out afterwards. Cool.
Yeah,
So cool. Okay, let's try the structure, right? So essentially, these guys start the episode like, okay, I have a few things to talk about, and and that's it, and then you go about it, right? So
yeah.
so yeah, so basically you can try that. So you already had the EVM thing, right? So so yeah, you
EVM.
just try that. The Ethereum thing, right? You were saying that why is it bad for overall? Why is it bad for tech or something like that?
Well, yeah. So I do have a couple of things. So what I can start with is like I'm just looking at my browser right now. So what happened? You turned off your video.
No, but it works like this, no? So then
Acha.
they zoom
Oh.
on the person who's
Oh.
speaking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh, this is cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Actually,
Like this
Racing
is
is much better than वो दूसरे वाला Riverside.
yeah, but this is just for streaming, though.
Yeah.
Like I saw it first, Harish streaming it actually last year,
Hmm.
and then when we were doing the streaming MVP, I just found more stuff on this one. Yeah, it's like has a decent UI. Like the point was the same, right? That if you could do the same with mobile devices,
Yeah.
because like this gives you a bunch of stuff and like quite some control over what you can do
Yeah.
while you're live.
Yeah. And like I think if you structure it well, then you don't need to edit a lot. Like for example, I think if you're just recording, you will need to edit a lot. At least cut out some stuff. This way you can just like stream it, and then if you just like put in the countdown and everything on time, then I don't think you need to edit. You can just live stream it and it's there.
Yeah, yeah. I guess if you just have sort of the quality and the flow sorted, then probably you can just be doing live streams as well, and might just work the same.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think live stream will be better. It's easier to record content. No, just say with the thing with Clubhouse also. Okay, it's just easier to record on Clubhouse because you are not thinking too much. and like the flow comes naturally.
Yeah. Cool, bro. So I'll let you talk about Ethereum and then let's see.
Yeah, good. Okay, so like I do have
And
a couple of points though.
Ismay, whenever you want to ask me a question, then you can just like basically turn me on and then ask the question.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So, like, I can give my thoughts on the merge basically. So, like, all the crypto community in a way is sort of raving about the merge, and it's a great thing. Like, especially the fact that it's going proof of work to proof of stake. So, it's like commissioning out all the energy in a way. So, like, it's much more energy efficient, and that helps the environment a lot. But like, if you look at the overall thesis that hey, like, whenever the merge will happen, like, Ethereum will go to 10K or like stuff like that, because ultimately it will become more useful. But the thing is, like, the underlying tech does not change at all, and so Ethereum is still as useful or as useless as it was before the merge. So it's a great piece of tech, but again, because it is so restrictive in terms of gas fees and stuff, it becomes a bit I would say a bit difficult to use, at least now, and the merge does not solve that. So, and actually, the bigger upgrades to Ethereum is sort of what comes next. And that is, I think, what should be the focus of the community and not the merge itself. So, merge has been the event that has been hyped for, like, I would say 3 to 4 years in terms of Ethereum second coming and like the biggest event in crypto. But the actual life enhancements on Ethereum come in the second part, which is when sharding goes live with all the different kinds of layer twos that goes live on Ethereum. That will actually enable it to scale much better, reduce gas fee, enable a lot of use cases just on the Ethereum mainnet itself, and then also on the layer two solutions of Ethereum. And then like later down the line, then ZK rollups come in, which sort of also ZK rollups and ZK snarks come in, which also like basically increase the TPS of Ethereum from the current one to almost like 1 million as a projected one. So yeah, overall, I think there is a lot that can be. There's a lot of takeaway from the Ethereum entire 2.0 upgrade, but this is just the first step, and it does not really add a lot of use case or a lot of value to the Ethereum network as such. And then, like, we've also seen that play out in the price. So, for example, if you look at the price, it was because in the anticipation of the merge, it was hovering around 2000. Now it has dropped almost 15% since the day of the merge, just because maybe it was disappointing to the overall community on what happened. It did went smoothly, but or maybe a lot of people were just buying out on the hype and did not realize um, what the actual event that was happening in the merge. So yeah, that is at least just my initial thought. Any thoughts from your side?
Yeah, sounds super interesting. So yeah, like in general, it does not like all of the stuff that happened now does not really make Ethereum more or less useful. Probably it's just like the energy usage, right, that you said, and that what's been talked about, that it just makes it more sustainable. And yeah, in like probably the grander scheme of things is something like hard drives, just becoming faster, and the Moore's law being applied to blockchain efficiency, although that has sort of already been true for other blockchains, so maybe it's just for Ethereum. But yeah, like would love to know more on like how does and how does this uh the ZK snarping, what did you say?
ZK snarks.
Like,
ZK. So there
yeah.
are two things: ZK snarks and ZK rollups.
So how does this work and how does this play out?
Yeah, so basically, like if you look at, like essentially, okay, can we put stuff on the screen also here? Like we can
Yeah,
put
you can
the,
share your screen now.
okay.
And I guess then it automatically like comes as a third box.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think this is what the guy shared. Um, Let me put this up if it works. Let's see. Um, okay, let's see. It's like this. It's coming. Okay, it's coming like this. We are muted. Okay, take it. So like now, if you see right, let's see how it shows. So now if you see like the first, so like there's this whole list of events that sort of encompass what each 2.0 is like as an entire upgrade, right? So there's the merge, the surge, the verge, the purge, and the splurge, right? So these are all the protocols that will go live as part of each 2.0. And isme say the merge is just the first part, right? So the merge is the layer that sort of enables everything to sort of build on top of it by moving to proof of stake. But it itself doesn't do anything, right? So it itself doesn't enable any quality of life enhancement for the chain itself. So if you look at what happens, so like first there'll be a fork chain that will get regulated, and then they'll basically all it will get tested out, and then it will merge, and the same with the post merge SF, which is like withdrawals are enabled and all of those things. So now at this particular point in time, this is where the proof of work gets disabled, and then Ethereum is the proof of work chain. So all the work that has been done up until now has been mainly done on this part, just to move from a proof of work to a proof of stake chain. And like if you see now, basically the second part that comes in, it's the search. So for example, what this enables, so like basic sharding, and then many shards. So like essentially, like, if you talk about what is sharding, right? So even I need to like go to the exact definition, but how I see it is uh, like sharding is basically, you can imagine kind of like an octopus. So like Ethereum is the main like head of the octopus, and then all the other layers are different legs. So like L2, for example, Polygon is one of the sharding layer of Ethereum. And like essentially what happens is, so all the let's say there's a particular calculation of the particular transaction that needs to be done. A lot of transactions will be done on the secondary layer, so layer 2, and then basically those particular layers will get rolled up, and then like the small amount of information about the location of the transaction, or a particular amount a particular information about the particular transaction will get on the main chain. So let's say if you do a transaction on Ethereum, right? So it'll be one transaction that goes through. It'll be like a set amount of gas fee, and then it gets executed. It gets part of the ledger. But now what happens is, because on Ethereum transaction everything is getting recorded, right? So there's a lot more data that is sort of processing in one particular block. Now what happens is, now with sharding, you take all these layer twos, and then you have a lot of transactions on that. So let's say 1,000 transactions, and you compress that data into just one particular piece of block, right? So you do not have the entire information about the transaction. You only have a little bit of information about the transaction, which points to another block on Polygon, for example, which has a lot more data about the transaction. That small amount of data that you have in transaction, you merge that data like 1,000 transactions in one particular block, and then you put it on the main chain. So Ethereum still has like a proof of all the transactions that happen on its network, but they are sort of very, very compressed in a way. And then the amount of data is sort of rested on the side chains or the layer 2 chains. And this is essentially what's
So So if you had to explain, for example, all the four, right? So the merge, as we see, like the biggest impact of it is kind of like the carbon footprint of Ethereum. So it just is it makes Ethereum more sustainable. So in that, like, what would be the one-liners that these guys will do? So the search, as I understand, um, is it something around like more cross-chain interoperability
No, it's
or something else?
so like the second the surge basically adds scalability to Ethereum. So going from just doing like transactional Ethereum, it enables transactions to get rolled up on the main Ethereum chain from layer twos.
So, but
Is
what is the benefit for, let's say, me, the user here?
so the main
Why should
benefit
I
is,
care about it?
yeah, the main benefit is, for example, your gas fees will get lower. People will be able to develop a lot more like transactions on it, a lot more use cases, just because the gas fees that the traffic congestion on one particular network goes from, let's say, 1,000 to one. Right? That will be the amount of difference that sharding brings to the network. So because of
So
that,
basically, it's mostly the gas fees.
so gas fee, network congestion. So for
Uh,
example, network congestion, what that means is like, let's say now only 20 transactions of Ethereum can be done in a minute, right? Now like thousands of transactions can be done in a minute. And what it will enable is like, if thousands of transactions can be done, a lot more use cases can be built instead of just like simple amount of use cases that can be done on Ethereum. So it becomes
so
more like a
gas
faster
fees
blockchain.
and faster transactions. So basically, now if I have to wait for 30 seconds for my block or for my transaction to get completed, you're saying that that becomes more faster.
Hmm. Yeah.
And But how does this impact, for example, chains like Polygon and stuff? So whose value proposition was that, see, Ethereum is slow, Ethereum is expensive, and they've built something like Polygon. So will these chains, kind of become non-relevant after the surge, or they would still have some part to play?
No, so actually, like they act as a key part of infrastructure for the search. So without the side chains, like the search cannot be completed because all the transactions that are happening will actually be happening on side chains. So let's say you have 1,000 transactions to do, right? All the transactions will happen actually on Polygon, and then they will get compressed, rolled up, and then put on Ethereum. As so, all the transactions actually happen on Polygon, but a location of the transaction or a proof of the transaction gets put on Polygon, put on the main chain, Ethereum. So without the side chains, they won't. The sharding thing won't function.
So so basically, like this makes Ethereum cheaper for Polygon,
No,
or in
so
general. Like, my question is, so let's say now if the gas fees on Polygon and on Ethereum are the same, why would I want to build something on Polygon then?
yeah, but see, the gas fees on Ethereum will still not be the same as Polygon. Polygon will have still lower gas fee, and the thing is, like Ethereum is sort of like won't be directly used for building applications. So it'll be like think of it like an ecosystem, right? So Ethereum is the main security layer, which sort of has transactions from all the layer twos. So whether it's Polygon, whether it's like optimism, whatever, right? So there's another layer two, optimism, optimum. There's like a couple of other layer twos, right? So all the transactions from different layers are housed in Ethereum because that is sort of security layer. So all the secure transactions, all the ledger, the full complete ledger houses on Ethereum. And now basically Polygon and all these different layers can be used for different use cases. So for example, let's say there's a particular layer 2 which is built for social networks, right? So to build social networks, so all the social networks will be built on that particular layer 2, but it will still be housed under the Ethereum sort of overall ecosystem. And that is how at least how I see it. So like people directly won't build on Ethereum like using Ethereum core chain as a transaction layer, but they will be used all of them will be using Ethereum as the security layer because all the transactions will be using and being getting housed on Ethereum ultimately.
Hmm. And now what about the rest? So now, so we saw the surge, and then what do the purge and the splurge do? And in general, like, what's the timeline for, what kind of timeline is there for these things?
Timeline, even I'm not sure. Yeah, I think even the guys are not sure when they will be able to complete these. But I think the idea is that they will try to do it within like 2024 is sort of the idea in which they try to sort of complete all of this, and that's how they're sort of at least thinking about it. And if you look at the secondary part, right? So if you look at the words, for example, so now basically the word sort of starts thinking more about like ZK snarks. So there's like called vocal tree. Like even I have to read up what it is about, but essentially what they do is like something called snarks, and snark is like just one level above sharding. So sharding is this which enables scaling, and snarks and ZK snarks make it super scalable in a way. And essentially it's the same. Like they will roll it up, and then they will just put the location of the data on the main chain, and the rest everything gets housed on like secondary chains, but it just takes up to another level. And because of this, like proofing and everything can be done much more faster, and like theoretically this will enable Ethereum to scale up to like almost 1 million transactions per second, as compared to like 3,000, 4,000 transactions at maximum right now. And for example, if you look at peak Solana, right, the Solana got really big, really fast because they were saying that they can do 70,000 transactions per minute, whereas Ethereum is saying they can do 70,000 transactions per second, TPS, right? Whereas Ethereum is saying once ZK is enabled, ZK rollups and ZK snarks is enabled, it will be able to do 1 million transactions per second. So like just the amount that is different is just vast and humongous. So I think that is what these two will enable, like in a combined surge and verge. And then if you go to the last two, right? So the purge and splurge, then it's more. I think so. I think from my perspective, even I have to like think a bit more. But the purge is more likely a security update. So it will enable a lot of security enhancements throughout the, because like there is a lot of things happening in the side chains also. So just to tie all these things together from a security perspective is what the purge enables, and then the splurge is the final one. So it brings all of these things together. So sharding, ZK snarks everything. Then they will enable post quantum. So if you look at post quantum everything, so what that basically says, it will make the chain quantum proof by making the encryption stronger. It will have more like at the protocol level more enhancements, and it will, the hardware that it runs on will be increased. So like just basically like all you can sort of thinking about all the extras in a way. So like if you have to like sum everything up, right? So I'll just go from the top. So like the first one is full, like the merge, basically full transition to proof of stake. Then the surge, sort of massive scalability increases for rollups through sharding. So basically, like we discussed, it will roll up the transactions for to enable sharding, which will massively scale the Ethereum network. The third one is the Verge, which statelessness through vertical trees and related features. So here they introduce the concept of snarks and some other things. Finally, the purge is basically, they're basically like in a way, like just think about the literal meaning of purge, right? They're basically eliminating all the technical debt, or all like purging all the bad aspects of Ethereum, right? Which were sort of have been built throughout some time. So like if you read the official definition, it's eliminating historical data and technical debt, which that they have logged from like when they went live. So they are sort of cleaning up the chain in a way. And then the last one is the spread. So after they've cleaned it up, after they've scaled it, then they add all in the nice extras. So like ZK rollups, ZK snarks, and some important other extras, which will sort of enable it to scale much better and then grow like much more stably over time.
Hmm. Super interesting. So yeah, like more to come in the coming years on
Yeah.
on Ethereum in general. And this is like more like reinventing computation, but you're sort of taking a decentralized lens towards it versus a centralized one, wherein, for example, this might have been done in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where they were just making hardware more stronger so that it can support. So the move from physical storage to cloud storage, right? So that's sort of where we are, essentially making this more stronger. And Ethereum is one of the first players that's there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's basically like Ethereum was the first blockchain, right? So now they're just like whatever they thought about when they started, right? No, there was no one who was doing like basically smart contracts, right? They introduced the concept of smart contracts. They built an entire computation engine around blockchain. So they started with that, and that was the entire focus of Ethereum 1.1, just to get that idea out, just to get the technology out. And now they've started finding some use case for it. Now is the time to scale it. So the Ethereum 2.0
Hmm.
is sort of a culmination of all of that, and just to enable like all those stuff, all the ideas that they bring up into more like reality in a way.
Cool. Cool. I think like we can do a couple more things on this call. So what I'll do is quickly pull up uh, like a few of these venture funds who have their thesis online, right? And just try to understand like what do they mean? Like what kind of projects are they looking for when they say like we're investing in this? So I'll look up variant and I'll also get symbolic capital. Do you have anyone else that comes to your mind that's interesting?
Let me see. Like all the big funds usually have, like they don't have a thesis as such, but like the idea of solo capitalists is super interesting. Like all these people who have some sort of distribution or some sort of experience in VC, they are sort of going out and raising solo funds instead of like being a GP in a bigger fund and all of those things, or being an LP in a bigger fund. So yeah, I think that part is interesting because like they get to make and break decisions just from a very solo perspective. And if the decision is right, then they go super big.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Like we'll just see. I think in one of these podcasts that with one of the GPs of Variant Fund, there was this guy Jesse Walden, and like his big vision for crypto is sort of to replace venture capitals as we know it, right? So he imagines a world where these communities can fund projects themselves, and you sort of don't need venture capitals after that. And some sort of that vision we're already seeing through. So if you, I don't know if you've heard of this community called Crypto Packaged Goods, CPG, and so this is an American DAO. So basically, it's a DAO which has founders, and now this DAO has like a couple months ago they launched their first accelerator, and so basically to join the DAO you need to pay I don't know, like $100, like you need to get $100 NFT or something like that. So from the money that the DAO collects, now they invest collectively in projects that are being built by members from the DAO. So they had their first accelerator program where they funded, I think, 50, 60,000 in non-equity grants for people to build. And eventually, I'd guess these equity grants turn into equity grants, and the DAO would have, collectively start owning the project community members are building. So yeah, like that. In overall, like it becomes more decentralized, the entire venture space. Something similar we're also seeing with music, right? I think I don't remember this guy's name, but he raised like $10 million in uh, venture capital for just funding music businesses. And these kind of models are just going to come up where you have more communities of operators uh, in that particular space. Because now, I think in the Web2 era, we saw already a transition from VCs to operator or like founder-led firms. But now these founders are sort of investing, in broader domains. Probably the next thing that we'll see is even more niche set of investments. So, so if
Right.
you are
Ismay,
a
but
musician, yeah.
one question, like who makes the decision to invest? Like for example, let's say there are like
Hmm.
100 LP, 100 guys who sort of come together to form a DAO, right? But
Hmm.
who will be sort of the guy or the girl or like the person
Okay,
who
so
sort of goes and says,
yeah, so I guess like it depends on the community to community, but for CPG I know. So what they are doing is so in the initial stages at least they want to have a centralized approach. So they have basically like a small venture team within the CPG. So everyone sort of assigns this person as the head or as the GP, right, as a general partner for taking the funds decision. So it's not like that everyone gets to vote on what fund on what projects to invest in, but it's still more centralized in that fashion. But people do get to vote on who will lead that. So it's kind of like a democracy, right? So you choose your prime minister and then you let him take care of the rest. So it's a bit like that.
right, right, makes sense. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So cool. So what I'll just do is quickly uh, let me share my screen. So now you have my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so let's just quickly go through uh, like trying to understand the thesis, right? So Variant, I think, is like one of like the bigger indie funds in this space, being run by young partners themselves, and who've sort of seen the flaws in the Web2 world. So like in that sense, it makes it a bit more different because they have like more of a broader vision. So now, if you just see like um, would be interesting to see like what kind of projects in actual life that would mean. So, so I think like if you think financial empowerment through DeFi, so what like in your opinion, what are the biggest projects out of this bunch? Like what exactly are they looking for?
Yeah, I think like if you look at financial empowerment, at least what my perspective is that like if you look at traditional finance, right? So it has left out a lot of people. A lot of people are not part of traditional finance. Like especially if you look at India, like 50% of the people don't own a bank account, or somewhere like a very high number of people don't essentially own a bank account. And like this is essentially because like, and why do they do not own a bank account? It's not that it is not technically possible, technically lazy, but just because how the logistics are set up, it's very difficult to like get an identity, tie it to get it approved, then go to a bank and then get your identity approved, have some sort of credit score. So all of these things which are sort of have been sort of designed with um, so to say a developed country in mind, they sort of do not fit to a lot of use cases in a developing nation. And I think this is where financial inclusion through DeFi comes in, because like with DeFi you don't really need an identity or some of the other things to have an account to receive money in, right? You just like click and then it's done. Like it's you already have an account. So just code in a way.
Hmm.
So I think that enables a lot of inclusion to happen, especially at lower levels, where people do not have access to like even basic financial services. And this is where I think DeFi can really help.
Hmm. So basically, like what you're saying is like one is new markets which have previously been under multiple reasons. So these people like basically it's kind of banking the unbanked, I guess, which is this point, right? Financial products that bridge the legacy financial system with DeFi, allowing new users and institutions to cross the chasm. And then maybe the other bunch of stuff is like building financial products that have not been imagined before, something like a Uniswap or Sushi Swap, which sort of falls in this category. That uh, these are these are, I'd say, images of systems that existed in the real world, but sort of made more stronger with code. And they're just reimagining how our financial systems used to work and sort of just making them more automated. Now, like if you have to talk about a bit on this, so what do you think they mean by protocols addressing the financialization and productivity of NFTs? Like how do you think NFTs empower people, or how do you think NFTs will play a big role towards financial empowerment for people?
Right. So, like, if you look at DeFi in general, right, and then moving to NFTs. So, like, DeFi sort of enables, um, like, if you look at a traditional, like, if you look at a traditional worker who is like who sort of want to work remotely for a company that is outside his own country, right? So like the amount of financial instruments or financial products that he will need right now just to make that happen is just insane, right? Not only will he need a normal bank account, he will need remittance service, he will need some sort of intermediary that will like basically do the transactions for him, a person to sort of do an AML, KYC, like all of those things, right? So it's like a number of intermediaries that come in between just him receiving a small amount of money for a project that he did.
Hmm.
So now, like, but if you use DeFi, right? Let's just say that he was using DeFi and crypto as a way to get that money, and the process becomes so simpler, and the process becomes so much simpler. And I know that it is not possible right now. So all there are all these things that are sort of stand in the way for that like particular reality to come. But just because of the nature that it is a 10x improvement over the current process, right? It will come in some way or the other in some time. So a lot of infrastructure and everything needs to get built, but once it does, then it seems like a logical way that people will be able to do these transactions and then unlock a lot of productivity just by using DeFi. And then here, like if you look at NFTs, right? So NFTs comes as a use case inside that. So
Hmm.
NFTs not only enable. So for example, if you look at NFTs, just from like NFTs basically just digital ownership. If you just like break down to very simple terms, and like ownership is the number one reason that people do stuff in the real world also. So for example, why do people work and like if you just remove the world of crypto and digital, like why do people work in the real world? Just because they can have ownership of different aspects. They can have ownership of some like in a way. If you look at land is just ownership of like a place that you can go and stay and then rent it out or like do that. And if you look at even money, right? So money in your bank is basically an ownership of some sort of value that you created before that you can use later down the line, or you can exchange it for some other value. So like ownership basically enables all kinds of incentives to get built on top of it, and that's what NFTs enable, just basically in a digital realm. So like if you have ownership of your content, of the different kind of creative things that you do, of the different kinds of analytical things or whatever things that you do, that will enable a lot of innovation, just because then people can sort of monetize that and then use that to create value and then basically give that value to someone else.
Hmm. Super interesting. I think on this line, I was listening to Balaji's podcast with Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about his project, right? 1729. I don't think he ever it was a personal mission that he 1729. So basically, he wanted to build like a Web3 edtech platform that lets people. I think yeah. So right now he's just using the domain to host his newest book, but hmm. But yeah, overall. So basically, the idea was okay. So before that, so have you heard of this website called Exorcism?
No.
Right. So what he was talking about is basically a proof of work on the internet. So basically, this website Exorcism, what it does is, so coding language you choose, you get a set of problems that you can solve. For each problem that you solve, you get a badge that you've solved it. So what Balaji says is, so if you look at traditional university or traditional college, what ends up happening is over 4 years you sort of solve like 2,000 or 2,500 problems, and based on, like, once you solve these many problems, now you're eligible for getting a job. So you sort of go from 0 to 1 basis on the number of problems that you've solved. What he says is, now in the next phase, what could be done is, depending upon the number of problems that you've solved, a number of new opportunities could be unlocked for you. So let's say if you've solved 10 problems in JavaScript, you can have a different kind of learning experience and an earning opportunity, and that you don't have to wait to actually complete 2,500 problems before starting to get paid. So essentially, his vision of an edtech platform is basically like, these sort of problems that you solve when you collect these badges or NFTs, and then you use them later, first as your proof of work that you've collected this NFT, so it shows that you know this stuff, and and for you to then bag more earning opportunities across different stuff. So that was something that like super like piqued my interest. Like, this could probably be the Web3 Coursera, and it wouldn't probably be just Coursera, because it's going to be more like a protocol that just stores your profile and your NFTs, and then you can use your same profile across different learning platforms while collecting all of these certificates or all of these badges in one place, which then basically could be used for finding employment and that kind of stuff. So this sort of also, talks a bit about, if you remember, at some point we were talking about how can non-digital workers how can non-digital workers build their own proof of work. So this some in some ways solves for that. Like, for example, I came across this website recently. It's called gopractice.io. So this is and they have basically a series of tests, but for product managers. So these are like problems that you can solve as a product manager. So essentially, uh, like, you can also make similar kind of problems and solutions, but for non-tech side of things, and these could then be like, the outcomes of these could then be collected in NFTs as well. So yeah, and that could then probably turn out to be your new digital resume that is stored on the blockchain, and that then use for finding work.
Right. Yeah. And also, it makes sense, right? For example, if you look at like traditional Coursera, right? People don't really learn by just watching stuff. People learn by doing stuff, and then because this enables like people just to do stuff, people just to do activities. I think the amount of and then basically have a proof that they have done this activity, and then it's verifiable on chain. So I think this makes it very not only just unique from like a proof perspective that hey, like this person has actually done this, but also just because like all of it is organized in a way that you need to actually like do something instead of just watching something. And I think that is sort of super powerful as well, because that enables people to do and experiment a lot of things, and that sort of culminates in them like learning faster, learning like more stuff, and also like learning in public in a way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, essentially, these guys have a lot of like basically, it's sort of Web3 is the reimagining of the of everything that we knew as is, and that is why in general it's more important, right? So Web2 sort of was more about broadcasting information, and looks like Web3 is going to be more about personalizing information online and actually forming your own digital identity for the first time. It's not just having a pseudo digital identity so that you can consume bunch of information that's being broadcasted to everyone in the same way.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that what's it's super exciting stuff. Like, although like we still consider like how much of it will come to play. Like a lot of things could still be just like dreams in a way, or like just things that people or just some good ideas in theory, but not very practical when they actually sort of happen. So like it'll be interesting to see
Hmm.
over the next 2 3 years how they play out, what sort of ideas get adopted, what sort of ideas don't work. But yeah, that's what makes the space so exciting, because like you can sort of reimagine anything and then see whether that will work or not.
Yeah, 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 that's true. Yeah, overall, I think like there are just tons of opportunities, at least for now. and then we play the waiting game and see how it goes and which direction it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so
Cool.
what I would like to close with is, I'm just looking at my Chrome right now, and I'm seeing like almost like I think 25, 30 tabs that I have open.
Hmm.
And like the browser experience, I'm just thinking about the browser experience hasn't really been revamped in like so long. Well, it's just so shitty
Yeah.
to just look at like just one. Like I have like okay, I have like I think 10 YouTube tabs open, right? And I cannot figure out which one is which. And it's like the space itself is like so short to just click on one and figure out where should I click. So any ideas there?
So
Like what
actually,
will be like the next sort of
yeah,
interface, the next browser?
like for some reason, right, whatever's productivity tools that you think of, I've sort of already dabbled myself with like a month ago. So yeah, one thing that you can do is I think there's this extension called Chrome tabs or Chrome tab groups, right? You have it on mobile phone, but you can get same for your Chrome. So essentially, what it does is it just creates groups for your sessions. You also have the same in Brave as well by default. I think you and I maybe you have it in Chrome also by default. I'm not sure because I generally use Brave and Safari, and so both of them have this thing called Chrome tab groups. But besides that, like if you have like so I've also tried a couple of other browsers which might work for you. So I have tried, for example, this browser called the Sigma OS. So and this one and there's one more browser called Sidekick. So these are two browsers that are built uh, for productivity geeks. So keeping productivity in mind. So Sigma OS is built on Apple's Web UI kit, and Sidekick is built on top of Chrome. So essentially, Sidekick basically works, similar to Slack. So you drop bunch of your important apps. So for example, imagine here dropping your YouTube, right?
Mhm.
So everything like all your YouTube sessions will be on the left side, for example, here, and you can just quickly access them via that. So this was quite interesting. I used Sidekick for some time and it worked well. Then I switched to Sigma OS since I found that it this one has like amazing shortcuts. And so basically you can create your own tab. So I had like a work tab where I put all my work stuff and an entertainment tab, and all of these tab sessions are saved. And and again same, like you can create an entertainment tab where you have basically where you'll just open YouTube videos, and then
Mhm.
whenever you want to shift to it, you'll just do like a command 4 command 5 depending upon whichever place it is, and then you can just quickly switch to it. So this one was a great browser as well for like for shortcuts. Eventually I switched back to Safari because this one was paid. Like even though I texted the founder and I got credits for a year, I decided to go back to Safari because some of my extensions were not working on Airtable.
Mhm.
So every time I had to work on that, then I shifted back to Safari, and eventually then Sidekick also. I just like Sidekick decent, but like from Sidekick I moved, like I found Sigma OS to be much more faster than Sidekick. But yeah, like these might just work for you. Like these guys have taken a shot at reinventing sort of the browser experience. I think you were talking about some tool also like last time. I don't know if it was one of these or something else that you tried.
No, I was talking about browser company. I think it's called browser company, and yeah, they're sort of building like a new like basically like so what their pitch is, it basically says that like this is the website right now, so like essentially like our browser has been the same for like so much amount of time, right? And like it's
Hmm.
just like it's just like so like if you see all this information, like it can be overwhelming just because like you have everything happening in the browser essentially, like the entire world lives on the browser right now, and all of our digital experiences like happen, and they're sort of trying to reimagine it in a way that like will sort of work better with the fact that like everything sort of moved to cloud and essentially to the browser. So they're trying to reimagine it and building on top of it. So I got into the early beta and tried it. I liked it, but like to me it still like doesn't really do too much to change the experience. Of course it's better than the current one, but yeah, like what you said, right? I used it for a couple of days and then ended up going back to Brave, just because like all my plugins and everything is sort of linked there. So like sort of like tied to the ecosystem for now, unless and until like a bigger change comes that will sort of force me to move and then like move all my stuff as well. So yeah, that's more or less about it. Okay, I think Shantanu lost his internet, so I think we'll call.
Hmm. Yeah, I was asking on this one, have you like do you still have it or you deleted it?
I deleted it now. So I deleted it. I might have it on my laptop still, but I don't really use it anymore. Just because all my
Can you
content and
like show me the UI, like how exactly these guys are doing it?
let me see if I can. Actually, I don't have it. Let me download it.
I think this is like more of a difficult problem to solve. Like it's sort of like what we were discussing, right, with Taza as well, that you're taking something that already exists, that already works quite well, and then you have to make it better. And the problem with all these tools is that you have a starting point, and essentially that like you. So what you need to do is reimagine the experience from ground up. Like forget what you know, and then try to think of something new that would make sense. At least for
Right,
Sigma OS and Sidekick, right? They are still it's like Chrome wrapped in a different UI or UX. Essentially, that's what it ends up being.
right. Yeah. Essentially, yeah. So that is what sort of like because the thing is the idea of Chrome and everything is sort of old, right? The core idea is like sort of borrowed from like Internet Explorer and even like Netscape before that, and that was sort of built on a generation in which the browser was used to internet access the internet and not really for much else. But now like browser is everything. So I think that is where it sort of fails in a way. But let me try to show you what these guys are doing. I'll let the guys. I think the guys recorded a quick loom, so I'll let him explain.
Hello, my name is Ryan. I work at the browser company.
So if
I'm
you
here
look at
today to
it
give you a little
now,
tour of Arc. So, kind of the
like
way we think
so
about
this is the
Arc is we
browser,
think
right?
that it
And
should
it's
be
essentially like
your
they first of all move the tab
home on the
horizontal,
internet.
but then I
And
think
because
like
of that,
from
we
my
spend a lot
perspective,
of
what they
time
did
looking
really well
at
was cleaned up the
customization
UI.
and
Looks very modern,
options for
much better
organization.
than like any of the other
And so you'll
browsers.
see that all of my tabs
You
are in
have your
this
current project, so
sidebar on the
basically
left-hand
like
side.
what you said
And there's some different
with one
areas
of the
that
products
said
that you
that
With
were
both of
sharing
these
these,
that
are important.
Sigma
So
and
yeah.
Sidekick.
everything down here
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a tab.
exactly.
These
So
are what
now
we
you can
call
like
explore
basically create a
tabs.
project that you would
And
want.
like the
You
button
have
suggests,
your
these are really
meetings
well
and
meant to
like your
be there.
Evernotes and your Figma on top. So like you have some common links on top, and then you can like have more and we can basically just start searching and start doing it. So it's like it makes the process super easy, at least in terms of how it functions. But yeah, I would say still this is more like a 2x improvement or like a 1.5x improvement over the current one. So it's like
Hmm.
or maybe like because it is still in development, it is still in beta. Like I only got the access because I applied for it like a year or so ago. But
I
I think
think
when
like
they
overall this looks super similar to Sigma for me. Like I think you should try it out. Like give it a shot. It's called Sigma OS,
Mhm.
and yeah, like it's a full tool. Maybe it sort of works for you. I don't think it's like again the problem there is to imagine like $1 billion product, but like depending on the use case, right? If it works for you, you could be using it. Eventually for me it was like one, the extensions, and then the second one was just the tabs, that if after a point of time I was like the work groups were not interesting for me, so it's not I didn't find the point of saving them. And I felt that I'm constantly spending time actually just on 3 or 4 websites. So it's not like that I open a lot of websites,
Yeah,
but most of my time I spend on 3 or 4 websites, and there would be some times where I just open like a lot of stuff across different pages.
yeah, research mode. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, so
But
that was more or
yeah,
less
just
it.
try out Sigma OS. They are in that sense pretty decent.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay, I think we have 50 minutes on the line. So on the line. So I think good first episode. Any closing comments?
Yeah, let's see how this one looks like, and then we see. We'll be back next week.
Cool. Then
And we can try consuming it now and see if it's like interesting or not.
yeah. So